I walked the rock-laden path, supposedly tread by none before me. A preposterous claim at best, and historically concerning at worst. The gravel and boulders here gave a timeline of stony process, where rocks beget pebbles that in turn beget the dirt of future passages. If my feet were to bring me to my destination, their benefactors would carve roads of civilization anew. Though it was not for me to decide which rocks became dirt, I walk across them nonetheless. My boots pressed into the earth, heavier with each step. The weight of my carry grew in tandem with the slope of my ascent. Little victories in each surely planted foot kept my heart brisk, for if loose, my heart would surely faint. Focused, head down, a shrunken field of view, no horizon for my eyes, as the climb itself was a reward in its own. Or so I believed. But when I did reach that mighty peak, my eyes heard something new. So many words could be written, as I have. So many stories have been told to me that I have recorded. Yet none can outright, nor none can outtell the splendor of this mountain's voice. The things it told me are not fit for words. Though my journey still moves, I cannot forget what it said. Chandra Meenra. What is Death Stranding? What is Death Stranding? What is Death? Death Stranding is unique. Death Stranding is awkward.
She's in bed with terrorists. Don't trust her. She's just another dumbass Higgs fucked over. She's a goddamn hero, that woman.
Death Stranding is fascinating.
Now you're no bridge. To me, I'm bound to all of it. This world, that world, and our sweet little angel of death.
Death Stranding is not necessarily fun. Death Stranding is weird.
A crypto byte a day keeps the time fall away.
Death Stranding is wondrous. Death Stranding is nonsensical.
You know your heart stops beating.
It stops every 21 minutes. I spent 3 minutes on the beach and then returned. 60 deaths and 60 resurrections per day. 60 opportunities to search the beach for my departed family. I would induce cardiac arrest 3 minutes at a time and search for them.
Death Stranding is imaginative, full of itself, and a whole new genre of game. Death Stranding is new and refreshing. Death Stranding is clunky and frustrating. Death Stranding is definitely something. Death Stranding is Hideo Kojima. I've played Death Stranding. It's a weird game. I like it a lot. Kind of. Do I? Christian, do you like Death Stranding?
I mean, I like it.
Did you have fun playing it? Was it fun?
Fun.
Is that a word you'd use?
Parts of the game.
Okay, if I'm being honest, I actually have fun playing Death Stranding, and it's just a really hard game to put down, to define. Like, it's an amorphous blob of a game that doesn't really lend itself to description. I mean, you can talk about the plot of it. You can kind of give a rundown of maybe what Kojima and his team meant when they were making it, or the history of it, but you're never really going to give a good image of it as a whole. I think when it was being created, there was this vision that got muddied, or maybe that's not fair. It's just weird. Like, you see me rambling here and not sure what I'm trying to say about it. That's kind of the essence of whenever you're talking about this game. So this video is going to be a little... I'm going to do my best. Me and Christian are going to do our best to get some finite, concrete things about it that you can understand, like the plot, like the gameplay, like things that we've experienced with it. We're going to do our best to give you that sort of foundation, and then we're just going to explore a little bit of what we've experienced with it. So you're not going to get a conclusion out of this video, really. You're not going to get... I mean, you might get something like that, but you're not really going to get what you would get from an easier to understand game. Our Frogger video was so much easier to just go, it's a game about hopping. This is not like that. I mean, well, actually, restart. We're going to restart this whole thing. This is done. We're cutting all of that. No, don't do that. Don't get to sit your ass down. Death Stranding is a really simple and easy to talk about game. It's just about walking. That's it.
Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Yeah, me. How did this game get made? If you've seen the Did You Know Gaming episode on Kojima, you'll know that in his design, he is very much inspired by the types of movies and media he grew up with. Over time, with each successive game he made, that influence would morph into an outright desire to make movie-like games, usually with some sort of message. However, in his time at Konami, he found himself at odds with them when trying to push that vision further. During the production of Metal Gear Solid 5, those tensions would rise to their peak. Konami began removing his name from promotional materials, they restricted his access to corporate communications, and started treating him like a contractor. They even barred him from public appearances such as E3 and the Game Awards.
As you noticed, Hideo Kojima is not here with us tonight, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. Mr. Kojima had every intention of being with us tonight, but unfortunately he was informed by a lawyer representing Konami just recently that he would not be allowed to travel to tonight's awards ceremony to accept any awards.
He did not back down, though. And in the end, he left Konami after finishing Metal Gear Solid 5. At this time, his team was in the middle of production on a Silent Hill game that would never see fruition outside of a demo called PT. I see Death Stranding as an immediate response to the cancellation of Silent Hills and Kojima leaving Konami. He went independent, opening his own studio called Kojima Productions. Without the oversight of higher-ups from a company like Konami to hold him back, he was basically given free rein to create whatever he wanted. Generally, when games are pitched, those funding them are looking for selling points and mechanics that are more likely to make money. Selling the game is their top priority. So while a developer might have an interesting and unique idea that players have not experienced before, the types of games that more often get greenlit are the ones that abide trends or ones with selling points, like name recognition, or better monetization options. This is why Death Stranding is such an anomaly. The only thing it has fitting AAA production criteria is Kojima's name recognition. At the time, Kojima was a huge name in the gaming industry, and Sony was incredibly eager to have him working on games for them. So, they were willing to eschew most common publisher inhibitions. Normally, those kinds of things would have kept them from blindly funding a game. If Kojima had tried to develop a game like Death Stranding under Konami, I have no doubt that the whole entire game would have been focused on gunplay, rather than just like the later Mads Mikkelsen war sections. There would have been microtransactions, and they would have completely overhauled the progression system in order to accommodate player spending. The overly complex storytelling and strange characterization would have been shaved and molded to better fit the average AAA game. I'm not saying that what we got is a perfect game. I'm not saying that the lack of editor oversight that's apparent in the game with the plot and the dialogue was a good thing. Generally, publishers won't take such a risk for fear of their bottom line. But I am saying that these were factors in creating what is a wholly unique experience.
Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
So, what is the game like? Well, essentially, it's a walking simulator, but not in the derogatory sense of the term that games like Edith Finch or Everybody's Gone to the Rapture gets. but more in the truck driver simulator kind of way. Maybe a better way to say it is it's a travel simulator, a delivery boy simulator,
Pizza time.
whatever you want to label it. It's not a bad thing. For as much as that label holds true, this is the most compelled I've ever felt just walking in a video game. Your goal as a player is to travel the United States from east to west, delivering packages and supplies to various outposts to help connect them together again. You don't receive anything in return and essentially are working for what you believe in. Come to think of it, there is never any mention of money or buying or selling of anything in this game. On your way, you'll encounter obstacles such as package thieves who just want the rush of delivering goods, spooky ghosts with umbilical cords that you can't see without a weird baby attached to your suit, and rocks. The rocks suck. Additionally, the world is very rainy, and this rain is super acidic and will literally eat away years of life from whatever it touches. So if you stay out in the rain too long, all your stuff will get completely destroyed. The controls of this game are fairly simple. You can carry cargo on your back to make deliveries. You can walk or run using the joystick, but running will make you less balanced, which could end with you tripping and damaging your cargo. You can adjust your balance if you end up leaning too much one way using the triggers, and if you hold them both down, you'll center yourself. This makes tripping over things much more difficult. However, you will move much slower even while running. The game's foot travel heavily relies on the momentum system that, when not buggy, is actually fairly impressive. Moving uphill is inherently slower and makes building speed much harder, whereas moving downhill can build so much momentum that bad rocks send Rita's tumble. I often found it exciting to attempt running as fast as possible downhill, using the momentum to my advantage without tripping. It was exhilarating in a way no other game has made the simple act of running. As you play and connect more parts of the US, you'll unlock more tools and technology to make travel easier and allow you to carry more cargo. Some of this technology will allow you to fight bad guys and bad ghosts better, but that stuff isn't as interesting as the traversal options. There are ropes, ladders, bikes, power legs, cars, trucks, zip lines, roads you build, floaty carry things, and a wealth of ways to combine them all. The ways you use them and in what order will heavily depend on your route and what part of the map you need to be in. In Death Stranding, you'll want to plan routes carefully and gather the proper supplies to traverse the coming terrain. I've played plenty of games that tell you to plan for your trips and want you to look ahead to prepare for obstacles. But most of them are full of themselves and never truly require such foresight, let alone genuinely make such a thing enjoyable. Whatever else I can say about the fun in Death Stranding, I can definitely say that I enjoyed preparing for trips. I enjoyed looking at the map to see which routes were the best to take to get to my destination, and when my preparations paid off, it was genuinely rewarding, especially if I had recently failed to do so on a previous trip. Each obstacle in Death Stranding has a different set of rules to address. Sometimes you can address them all similarly by moving slowly and holding the triggers down, and sometimes you'll have to improvise. Take the scavengers called mules, for instance. They are a group of delivery-addicted thieves who want nothing more than to steal your packages and apparently deliver them for you. But probably incorrectly. Kojima, I swear to God, I'm trying. If you want to keep them from doing your job incorrectly, you can just take note of their territory, and when you get near, just slowly and safely go around it. That could mean way more time in the rain, and thus more damage to your goods. You can instead go straight through their camp and just bolt, going as fast as you can, dodging electrical spears and ramming through the bozos just to get to the other side quickly. A tactic which I found quite satisfying and fun until I learned how effective Option 3 can be. Option 3, you just beat the shit out of them. Most obstacles have this sort of dynamic to them, allowing you the freedom to approach them however you want, or better said, however you think you would be the most successful doing. Though, I would recommend playing the game without trying to fight anything. Later on, you get some pretty powerful tools that make fighting human and ghosty boys alike both cakewalks, which removes a lot of the fun and initial tension that those obstacles provided. So just run away and stay spooked. It's a better experience. Death Stranding also has some online features that connect you to other players that are on the same server as you. You don't have a choice in this really, and on the surface, the interaction is kind of minimal. You go along connecting the cities of the UCA to the chiral network. When you do this, the tools other players have put into the world will appear in your world. These are things like their ropes, ladders, umbrellas, charging stations, and rest areas. Players can also help each other build larger structures like highways. Below the surface, however, the interaction gets a little more interesting. For example, if enough players on the same server walk the same path repeatedly, it will erode rocks and dirt into a flat passage for easy traversal. The same is true in reverse. The less used a path is, the more harsh it will become for traversal. For me, the controls didn't feel like a mechanical hindrance. They were at times a little less responsive than I would have liked, but something about the clunky movement made it feel real. The game is certainly not what I would call a game with realistic physics, but the fact that I spent my time passing my focus from the ground beneath my feet to the horizon in front of me as I attempted to adjust my steps in accordance, well, I don't think I could explain it any better than Super Bunny Hop did.
Let's talk about what's happening inside my eyeballs. Remember how I said every step of the way matters? That's because the textures on the ground underneath Sam's feet are important gameplay variables. My eyeballs are constantly darting from the ground underneath Sam's next step to the ground up to the horizon line, where I'm planning out my moves for the next few steps, up to the aesthetic, beautiful background where I'm looking at obstacles I'm going to be hitting 5 minutes for the next step. In other words, my eyeballs are visually processing a chronological flow of gameplay information that looks like a completely natural and organic landscape, which maximizes the utilized space on the screen, minimizing HUD elements and other non-diegetic floating interfaces.
If you guys haven't watched the full video yet, you definitely should. It's on his channel. I think the mechanical design of Death Stranding left me wanting to see more, but not in a bad way. It made me want to see more developers and more creative minds work in this field and mold this into an actual new genre that it has the potential to be.
Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Well, this one's called The Narrative, boys and girls, and better get strapped in because I'm barely going to go over this. The story of Death Stranding is all over the place. It's obvious from the start that it came from Kojima's brain. It is a fascinating cacophony of brilliant ideas and hammy writing. The dialogue is almost always awkward.
Ooh, you just love yours, don't you? I bet Daddy was real proud.
Sometimes it's endearing, like when Norman Reedus is talking to himself out in the world, and other times it's uncomfortably full of itself, like anytime Fragile says her catchphrase.
Because I'm fragile. But I'm not that fragile.
I can't stand some of the dialogue in this game. It's overly dense with exposition and sickly earnest in the straight-faced way it delivers its absurdity. However, this over-the-top complex world with insane lore and ideas are a big part of what players love about Kojima's games. We crave the unique vision that only he and his team can really bring us. We are completely willing to overlook nonsensical lore and confusing plot for that compelling experience. If you want, you can look into the deeper lore of this game yourself, but I'm only going to cover the basic synopsis of the plot. You are Sam Bridges, aka Norman Reedus. Your mom is the president. Your sister, who looks like a younger version of your mom, is kinda sorta trapped on the other side of the country by terrorists after she set up the infrastructure for the chiral network, which is a sort of sci-fi internet that goes across America. You, a reporter, like the US Postal Service, you deliver packages. The task given to you by President Mom is make America whole again through the chiral network. You're told that a resident of the city you just arrived in committed suicide and is going through a process called necrosis. If her body going through necrosis isn't incinerated soon, the contact made with BTs, beach things, or the spooky ghosties, will cause it to explode into what is known as a void out. I was completely enraptured in the aesthetic of it all. The decomposing body being a ticking time bomb that added instant tension to the world as it was being shown to us. There's a lot of excess exposition throughout the following parts, but, for me, that never took away from the more interesting big picture. We fail, and a void out destroys Central Knot City. After that, you meet up with Mom, whom tells you to bring America together, and then promptly dies. You gotta take her body to the incinerator, along with a decommissioned BB. Turns out the BB still works and it saves your life from a couple of spooky boys. You do incinerate your mom, but not the BB, because now you're buds. After this, things open up a little bit more, allowing you to take on more delivery missions that will connect more cities across the chiral network and allow you to take on even more missions. As you connect more and more of the nation, you uncover more about what the Death Stranding is, and who all these people you're meeting are. You run into the terrorists who captured your sister and are confronted with their leader, Higgs, who wants to bring about the final extinction event to end all life. Along the way, you're seeing memories that you assume are from your BB, who you name Lou. In these memories, you see a man named Clifford Unger, who wants to protect the baby. Later on in the game, you come into conflict with Clifford as he yells out for his BB. And
Give me back my baby.
After fighting Clifford 3 times, you learn that the memories you are seeing of him are not Lou's, but actually yours. You are his son. Once he realizes this, he shakes out of his fugue state and the fighting stops. Next, a bunch of explanatory exposition between characters happens that I don't have time to go into, but in the end, you stave off the next extinction by defeating Higgs and a giant whale and give your sister a big ol' hug. Like I said, there's a hell of a lot more in this game than what I've said here, but this is just kind of a basic run over some big points. Let's talk about the peculiar society of Fallen America. As I played Death Stranding, I noticed a lot of idiosyncrasies with our world today. Obviously, it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and obviously there are spooky ghosties hanging about, but what I mean is societal differences. What is considered normal? What is given among the people of Fallen America and the not cities? First of all, there is no form of currency. The like system that they have, it's not money, it's just a way of showing gratification. You can't spend them on anything. When dropping off goods and deliveries, there is no expected payment. It doesn't cost you anything to buy equipment except the resources required to make them. The cities of America are a set of disparate, moneyless states. Everyone does what they do for the benefit of one another. Sure, some of them are distrusting, and some of them expect you to do things in return for what you want from them, which usually all you want is to connect them to the chiral network. But you and every other porter out there like you are just delivering supplies that people need because they need it. Not for monetary or selfish gain. Hell, even the mules don't steal your goods for money, though mules are a special Kojima kind of weird. I don't have time to get into their ideology. All of this led me to a realization. Not a big one, just a realization. Death Stranding is a world without capitalism. Given it is a world without any institutions in general, and the government is nothing but a shambling holdout that you are desperately trying to bring back together. But in this world, the old institutions that would have required everyone to do things for pay and personal gain are gone. Scientists invent for the progress of humanity. Doctors heal for the well-being of other people. Cities deliver goods to each other based on their needs. People are given shelter and presumably food because they're living human beings. The very way people see each other in this world is completely different. As disconnected as these people are in Death Stranding, they still fundamentally see each other as humans. The very themes of Death Stranding play into this idea that people should help one another selflessly. Kojima's idea of Strand gameplay is hard to pin down through various interviews, but I think the best way to describe it is a game that incentivizes altruism. Kojima wants you to make connections with players you'll never meet and take game actions that will assist them without expecting compensation. And maybe sometime down the road, the actions of someone else will help you. Kojima wants to tell us that we should look at the real world through this lens. It isn't subtle, it's a little hammy, but I'm not sure it's supposed to be subtle. Kojima's never really been known for subtlety, and that's not a fault in my opinion. This game has a clear message and it takes every opportunity to tell the player about it. The obvious social media metaphor attempts to speak about the distance our technology creates between us. I don't necessarily think he's saying smartphone bad or anything so digressive, though the handcuff phone stand-in doesn't really help. It's more likely that Kojima's own experience with loneliness provides a perspective for the game to wax poetically about how we should connect more closely with one another. In Death Stranding, you rarely meet face-to-face with any of the residents of any of the cities. Rather, you speak to them through chiral projections. To the point that when you do meet face-to-face with an artist's girlfriend that you need to transport, it's really jarring.
Take me with you.
The ideology of this game is consistent, and it has a lot to say. The vision is holistic and inextricably linked to Kojima himself. It's heartfelt and straightforward when communicating its themes, even if the world building muddies its message. The Strand genre is about sharing, humanity, and cooperation. A normal third-person action game doesn't bat an eye when the player murders 50 billion grunts.
You can't just leave us here.
Keep your head down. They spot us, those hostages.
But that's not how the normal world works. Some games reward you for not killing enemies, but in real life, it's the bare minimum. Death Stranding takes that stance. killing isn't seen as normal, and it's nearly impossible until later stages of the game. And even when it does give you tools to easily kill all the mules and terrorists, it punishes you massively for doing so. At minimum, murdering someone will be a massive hassle, requiring you to carry their dead body all the way to incinerator, but at worst, it'll cause another void out like in the beginning of the game. The game is forcing you to see the humanity of other people. So what is a moneyless society in the real world? Essentially, a society without money. Obvi, duh. But in reality, what does that entail? If you search online, you can find a few interesting examples of online communities and student-led think tanks attempting to come to a conclusion on how one of these might work. The Auravana project exists to co-create the emergence of community through the openly shared design, construction, and operation of a socioeconomically unified network of integrated city systems in which purposely driven individuals are fulfilled in their development toward a higher potential state of human experience for themselves and all others. We are developing a highly automated, moneyless society oriented towards human fulfillment and ecological sustainability. So basically, a sustainable community without the need for markets or money-based economies. Sounds a lot like the not cities of Death Stranding. However, for something like this to exist, would it necessarily take a cataclysmic event like the Death Stranding? Is it even possible to have a moneyless society? Well, with the way climate change is looking, we might find out, eh? Am I right? This planet finna get lit. But this idea of a non-transactional society where people are provided for isn't just a socialist pipe dream. And it isn't without warrant. A climate disaster could certainly send the whole world into such a state that society as a whole would need reconstruction. However, there is actually another threat to market-based capitalist society. In the run-up to the 2020 USA presidential election, Democratic Party candidate Andrew Yang ran on a progressive platform involving something called a UBI, or Universal Basic Income. The idea that everyone in the nation deserves to have their basic needs provided for through a government income just for being a citizen. This push for UBI didn't just come out of the goodness of Yang's heart, but because of the looming threat he saw in automation. Automation removes jobs from the job market. It creates a few with technicians and repairmen, but the losses far outweigh the gains. Trucking jobs are what we face to lose the most of in the coming years because of automation. If more and more industries begin to automate, there will be fewer and fewer jobs for the average person. If there are no jobs for them, then the only people making money are those that own the robots that produce. Essentially, increased automation takes money that would have been paid to workers and gives it back to those companies. So then the problem becomes, if no workers are being paid, then there are no consumers. And if there are no consumers, then the products being produced don't sell. UBI is a form of wealth redistribution that taxes those who own the means of production in order to subsidize the loss of jobs in response. In my opinion, this is just a band-aid reaction, and without a form of rent control policy to back it up, UBI is kind of useless. But that's besides the point. It is looking at an issue of automation in hopes of solving it. Automation should be a good thing. We should celebrate the convenience it allows. The problem is the system, not the technology. A moneyless society, like that of Death Stranding, benefits the most from forms of automation, since the tasks that the robots perform do not diminish the livelihoods of the jobs they replace. And while in-game they aren't as talented as you, the idea that they could deliver all your packages for you is a boon, not something to fear. This system of automatic deliveries is a service to all cities on the chiral network. If automation in the real world were used the same way, we wouldn't need to worry about the future of jobs. But maybe that would require a climate disaster. Who knows? What is it I'm trying to get at here? Am I reading too much into this? Is Death Stranding really a game about moneyless anarcho-communist statehood? Is Kojima secretly a leftist? I don't know, probably not. That'd be rad though. The thing I really want to talk about was just something I found interesting. I'm not trying to put words in Kojima's mouth or say the game means something that he would definitely contradict. The game does have implicit and explicit meaning coming from the auteur himself. It's just that the themes he worked so hard to put into the game have something to say about humanity. The hope Kojima wanted to instill in players is about coming together, literally connecting, and helping one another for the simple reason that we are human. And that's socialism, baby! Universal healthcare, they got that. Public research, boom, right there. Chiral internet available to all, ooh, it's coming through that Cupid thing. Food and goods available to those who need it? Probably. It's hard to tell. No money system. No labor exploitation? Hell yes, brother. Sister, or NB sibling. Public infrastructure works. Damn Skippy, it's on the way. The goddamn motherfucking postal service back at it again with the white vans. Yes, boy! God, I wanted to do that so bad. Hey y'all, thanks for watching. We probably could have done blah 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 blah. Kill me please one day. Yeah, I guess we probably could have gone harder on the section about the plot of the game, but we felt that too many other videos have probably gone over that to infinity, so we just wanted to glaze over it. There are a couple things I'd like to mention here as the final part of this video, though, that really didn't fit into the rest of the pieces of it. Like I mentioned before, if you haven't watched that Super Bunny Hop video on his experience with hiking across America in relation to Death Stranding, it's really, really good, and you definitely should watch it. It's the video that inspired me to talk about this game in the way that I thought about it. Obviously, in his video, he references how it relates to things in his life, and I'm not relating to that. I haven't hiked across America. Fuck that, I'm not doing that. But there were some interesting things that I found in Death Stranding that I want to talk about. Another video that really inspired me with this was Noah Caldwell Gervais did a super in-depth look at some of the inspirations and themes of the game while going over just about everything there is in the game. He mentions this book called The Postman by David Brin that has such a striking resemblance to some of the parts of Death Stranding that I'm convinced Kojima definitely read it at some point before making this game. Though I couldn't find any interviews with him talking about that book. Another one was The Sphere Hunter, who did a nice and clean rundown of the game through the lens of her opinions on it. If you want a clear picture of Death Stranding as a game, I definitely recommend her video as well. Also, just for fun, Alan Pan from his Sufficiently Advanced channel did a really cool, silly video about turning a treadmill into a controller so he could play Death Stranding while working out. It is an amazingly entertaining video that I wholeheartedly recommend you watch.
Likely to get stared at by an old white man in a moving car. And yes, I see that really neat flag on your window. Are you quite aware that you guys lost the war? And yes, I did use the gender-neutral bathroom. What is your concern with what I've got going on? You can fight me in this Walmart if you really want to, but when you get your ass beat, don't pull out your AR.
Jumping jacks. La 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 la.